Hi folks, welcome to Cortisco's Chess Center. Please like, share, and subscribe as we share our love for the greatest game in the world, chess. Hi folks, welcome back. What a great game. What a great game. My buddy from the United States is black, Carl Nakamura, rated 27-36. And Andrei Esipenko, rated 27-14. This is part of the Grand Prix series. This is part 3, Pool A. What the Grand Prix series is a series of tournaments, games. The top 2 players in the Grand Prix section go into what they call the Candidates Final. That's 8 players that play a round-robin tournament. For those who don't know, round-robin means everybody plays each other at least once. That's a single round-robin to determine who will challenge Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. And Hikaru, who's been really not playing much lately, has managed to qualify for the top spot to be in the candidates. So congratulations to Hikaru. I knew he could do it. You know, it's funny. Some guys really study like crazy, and that's important, but sometimes you just need to step back. Now, Hikaru's really popular on Twitch. He streams a ton, plays a lot of blitz games. He's very well known in that realm. And the classic players kind of frown on that kind of activity, and Carl's always been, he's been a little outside the box, but I digress. This is a really good game. It's going to be a Vienna game. Esipenko is white. Hikaru is black. E4, E5. We'll just go through the opening here. It's not a Gucko piano, but it's similar. Knight A5 hitting the bishop. Queen goes to F3. Pretty much standard. Take that bishop when you can. D pawn takes. Now it's interesting, and that leaves a nice wide open file. Give you an idea. Now this file is open, and that's a good thing. D6, and the knight goes to E2 because the queen's taking F3 square. Bishop E6. He was going to do that anyway to fianchetto his bishop. More than likely, this bishop will end up here. Bishop, they both castle. This is pretty much standard stuff. These guys know these openings backwards and forwards. A5. It's just keeping the knight out. Plus, maybe down the road, who knows? Get a rook left. You know? That happens too down in the game. It depends. A6, just to stop that advance. Knight G3, bringing the knight back around. Bishop G5. And this is really interesting. Now, the computer off screen has got all kinds of suggestions. It's pretty much an even game. Bishop takes G5 is the computer's choice. The number 1 move would be a very close second is knight to F5, and that's what Esipenko does. Wants that pawn there. Bishop takes. Rook on A takes. G6. Knight E3. Now you're looking at some really, really interesting things here. Like this knight might end up here. And he might have to get rid of his bishop. Or move the knight around to try to get rid of it. Because that's a really strong knight sitting there. But what happens is when you go to recapture your pawn structure. I mean, you can have a really good pawn structure out of this. We'll have to see how it works out. C6, just to stop that. You can't have that knight there. Rook A1. Now he moves the rook back. That's interesting. I think 99% of the people would have want rook on F to D1. And it's interesting, that's a second choice on the computer. Rook to A1 is actually the computer's first move, but all top 4 moves on the computer are all the same as far as ratings go. So this must still be in some preparation for Hikaru. Queen e7. Queen d1. Rook a to d8. Get those rooks right on those open or semi-open files. What to do? What to do? This is a part of the game that most people struggle, including myself, to come up with a plan. It's tough. And what would you do here if you were white? Honestly, it's king to h1 maybe, queen to e1, but that wouldn't be so hot. So what you decide to do is you're going to double up on the only file that's semi-open, meaning there's no white pawns on it, and that's the D file. So that's what Espenenko does. He goes queen to d2, knight f6, guarding this key square. f4, just goes for it. Carl takes, rook takes, knight h5. Not bad, not bad. Does it look like there's a big attack on the black king? Oh, not really. He's got plenty of protection, even though there's an open file. He brings the rook back. Queen goes to g5. Bring in the heavy pieces. Yeah, do it, man. He just brings the other rook over, just calmly and surely. Just brings it over. Now, if you notice something, this knight is pinned because there's nothing guarding the queen, and there isn't any knight moves that can protect the queen. So right now, that knight isn't doing anything. Queen takes the pawn. g4. Hikaru has been known to be fearless. Now, he's technically up a pawn, but white is really pushing it here. Knight g7. Knight f5. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting move. I wouldn't have saw that move myself. It's really something, because you got to remember this queen is guarding this knight and is babysitting, and it's stuck there. So knight goes to f5. So what do? Do you take the knight? Well, let's see what happens when g takes f5. E takes f5. And it's coming. We'll say it goes bishop here. Rook comes over to h3, queen to h6. I like queen to h6. That's a lot more forceful. f6, just to give his king some breathing room. Maybe bring the bishop around. Rook to h3, threatening. You've got to move, and it's just a mess. Queen takes, king f7. That's a dead drawn position. Absolutely dead drawn. You can't go rook here because of the fact it's not guarded. So we'll go back and forth, and it would be a draw. So, what's the best move? The computer likes rook d7. But Hikaru decides to go queen e5. And that's very interesting. Now, he's a pawn up, but it's basically an even position, because there's a big attack coming on the black king. Knight to h6 check. King has to go there, of course. And now knight goes to d5. Very interesting. Very interesting. Again, this is a huge attack. What happens if pawn takes? Well, let's take a look. White retakes. Most people will retreat the bishop either here or here. We'll say here. And white's in a little bit of trouble. Rook takes f7. And if you play rook takes, and there you go, you lose the queen. So things aren't so cut and dry as you think. Queen f2. White just triples up now on the f file. There's a lot of power going on there. And that bishop has to stay there. That's the point of putting a knight on d5. Because this bishop will have to move. Thus, this pawn isn't being guarded anymore, which is the key to the whole thing. So he just decides to go f5 and say to heck with it. G takes. Now what do you do here? Bishop takes. E takes. Oops, excuse me, messed up there. Bishop takes. Let's go back. F5. G takes. Bishop takes. E takes. Knight H5. He wants to bring that knight here to stop the advance of the pawn and negate all this power here. Rook D1 hitting the queen. Queen goes back to G7 to help guard the king. Now, right now, it's even as far as material goes. 6 pawns, 2 rooks, and a knight each, and a queen. Knight G4. It's getting complicated. Now, right now, it shows a tiny advantage on the computer for black. It looks like a Carl's in some danger here, but he's really not. He's fine. Knight F4. See, the thing is, these guys have confidence in their ability. And sometimes we'll see a position that will freak us out, but they just calculate it out, and they go, no, there's nothing here. F6 pushes the pawn up. Queen goes to D7 to hit the knight. Rook takes. Pawn takes. Queen takes. Now, right now, there's a knight and a pawn for a rook. And the computer shows a small advantage for black. Now it starts getting complicated. You get double rooks, but that knight can be tricky. We're going to see how this works out. Rook D to E8. White does not want to trade because you remember, he's down a rook. He's down the exchange. Queen F7. King H1. Now we're on move 36. So this time control hasn't hit yet. Queen goes there. Rook to G1. H5. Just saying, yeah, go ahead. Do the discovery on my queen. Knight goes to E3, hitting the queen. And this is the part that Esipenko miscalculated. When his knight moves, he goes rook takes F6. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What do you do now? What happens if rook takes? Rook takes F4. You're stuck. You're screwed. So you decide to say, okay, let's play D takes. B takes. Rook G3 just to bring some protection to the king and that knight. And it's really over. It really, truly is. Eventually, this rook is going to get down here, start picking up these pawns here and here. It's going to be a nightmare for him. What a great, great game. Let's go back here to rook takes F6, and that's where Esipenko resigned. So Akaro gets into the candidates final, the final 8. And one of those 8 will play Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. I thought this was a beautiful game. Very complicated, very tactical. And notice there was a couple of minor pieces up. They put up for sacrifice. If they were taken, was caused grief. I thought this was a really good game. And I haven't analyzed a game in a long time, at least on YouTube here. So I'm a little rusty, so I'll get a little better as time goes on like I used to be. So I hope you enjoyed this game. Oh, gosh. I mean, it's going to be something with the candidates coming up. I'm not sure on the dates of the candidates tournament. I'll put it on my channel here as time allows. And the notifications are done through FIDE, the International Chess Organization. But a great game. And I want to say to all my chess people, thanks for coming back to my channel. I know I did chess on my other channel for many years, and I switched to news and politics, which is kind of my passion. And I lost some chess people, and I understand that. And some were disappointed in the fact that I went to news and politics. So I'll be doing more videos here on my chess channel as time goes on. get back in the groove of that. Until next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.